Hello, everyone. It's me, Andrew. Um, you may be wondering, you're like, oh, where's William? Well, he got some customers at the last second, so he couldn't make it just yet. Hopefully, he's on his way. Anyways, I hopefully you all are having a good start to your week and that you're making lots of things and staying creative and inspired. Kind of feels weird, like this side is empty. Usually that's William. And I tried to scoot over on the edge, but I don't want to rearrange our seating arrangement. So it'll have to be what it'll be, okay? If you're watching, say hello and maybe where you're from. And yeah, hopefully you all are doing well. We had a busy weekend. One of our friends gifted us some storage, and so we got some storage containers that we're going to use at the cottage to kind of tidy everything up. Maybe we'll use them at the store as we kind of expand the back room. And then on Sunday, we picked up some display cases and some tables. So the display cases will either go in the store, depending on how much room we have, or it'll go into the new store in Johnstown. So it just depends what we have space for and what looks right, um, and what we decide. We've kind of been throwing around the idea of possibly renting out the Johnstown space until we have a little bit more bandwidth. We're doing a little bit of reconfiguration and reorganization on our end. So instead of just having it sit empty, we were thinking about possibly renting it out so that, it's not sitting empty and we're taking full advantage of all of our assets. So we'll see if we do that or not. It will delay some of our physical space openings for the new store, but ultimately, it just depends. It also depends if it will rent or not. So there's a lot of question marks. So we'll see. I see a couple people have tuned in. Suzanne is watching. Hey, Suzanne. Barnaby is downstairs waiting for William, and Gilbert is conked out in his chair. Michelle's watching. Hey, Michelle. If you haven't seen, William has a group called William Tries Things, or a page that's called that, and he has a group called the Triers. And Michelle just uploaded some of her new designs that she created. One of her projects that she recently tried is to create her own peyote stitch designs. So if you are not on that page, check it out and see the designs that Michelle came up with, because they're pretty cool. If I can carve out a little bit of time, I'm going to give my hand at it, try my hand at it. But we've been so busy that we'll see when or if that happens. But hopefully. Teresa's watching. Hey, Teresa. Hopefully all is well with you. I saw your pictures of your cats or your pets earlier, and the one looked a lot like Babette, and so it made me miss Babette a little bit. But it's always nice to have that reminder. Diane's watching from Mesa, Arizona. Hey, Diane. Marianne's watching. Hey, Marianne. Cindy is watching. Hey, Cindy. Oh, Jan Durkin is watching. Hey, Jan. It's been a while since we've seen you. Hopefully you're doing well. Jan is kind of local, so if you have a chance, go and look her up.
Hi, everybody.
Look, there's William.
I made it.
He's out of breath. He ran.
I did. Oh, you're backwards today.
I don't know anything any different. I think it translates the right way.
I think they both do now. It does some magic.
Yeah, it does something.
Even when I flip it and hold stuff, people are like, I can read it. Oh, good.
Good. Oh, Barnaby's
Barnaby,
here.
he's so mad. He's trying to get out the house when I walked in. He wanted to go on a walk. He said, it's National Love Your Pets Day, and you're supposed to be giving me more loving, he told me.
Well, we're going to express our love by hopefully making money in which will go towards feeding our beloved pets. How do you think about that, Barnaby?
Food and maybe some treats. How about some treats, Barnaby? I want some treats too. Oh.
He was like, all right,
Okay.
I guess.
I'll take it, he says.
All right.
You're gonna give me kisses.
He's like, you're so dirty.
I know.
Nasty daddy. Harry's watching. Hey, Harry. Diane's watching. Hi, Diane. Susan's watching. Hi, Susan. He's always trying. This one here is always trying to steal my thunder. Did you see that picture the other day? I said, pose for the camera, and he covered my face. That's an old picture, but still cute. Amanda's watching. Hey, Amanda. Teresa says, love Michelle's designs. Good. Hopefully you all will, if you are seed bead inclined, you will try that out. And of course, if you need the delicas to make that project, you can always email us at info@Allegory Gallery, and we can hook you up. We may know somebody.
Which ones are we talking about?
Michelle's designs in your Triers group.
Yeah.
We may know somebody who has the hookup on beads. Maybe. So hopefully y'all will try that. You can put your tries in the trying group. Amanda says, today we had a provincial holiday called Family Day. It's so nice to have an extra day with the family. Today was President's Day here in the U.S.
Yes,
so
it was. Banks are closed. Post office is closed.
So no packages are going out today.
No, but some were shipped. Well, marked to ship, packed up and ready to ship.
Yeah, Barb still came in.
Barb was in.
Suzanne says, hello, Harry. Love that orange kitty you fired. Oh, there you go. That was super cute, by the way. I liked it as well. Marion says, hi, William.
Hello, Marion.
Teresa says, yes, my cat Phoenix looks like Babette. And she also said hello to everybody.
Hello.
And then Jan says, so sweet. Barnaby is clawing my pants. Marianne says, yes, working for the overlords is important too. Correct.
You little overlord.
He looked at me. He's like, and then touched my knee.
Know your place.
He's like, and then now digging his claws in a little bit. He's like, what are you talking against the current power?
Listen,
feel the power. That's cute. You're kicking up a lot of cat hair.
Oh, we gotta watch because
we're doing a polymer clay demo. And it's gonna look a little bit different.
Let's not do that, Barb.
So normally, whenever, and this is gonna bring us segue into our demo today, which you're like, what? It's not Tuesday, but I thought that if you just look at the things we're gonna try to sell you, you're going to be like, I don't want that. So if we show you how to use them, then you might be more inclined.
One way on how to use them.
Yeah, one way on how to use them. You might be more inclined to pull the trigger and do that. Amanda says, Barnaby wants his own YouTube channel. Well, if Barnaby wants to do extra work, then he is more than welcome to help.
He says, I can't work the camera, Dad.
Excuses, Barnaby. He's gonna get mad. He's already like,
sitting up ready to leave again.
Well, Cindy says that he is so pretty. He is.
He is a pretty kitty.
And he has had a good day today. Sometimes he has hard days, but today he was having a pretty good day. Susan's watching. Hey, Susan. And Suzanne says, Lundi Gras here.
Lundi Gras.
Monday. Yeah. So
greasy Monday, Fat Monday.
That's for because she lives in New Orleans.
Mardi Gras Tuesday.
Michelle says I reloaded a better video in our group. Oh, good.
I saw that. It looked good. She looked so happy to have gotten that.
Oh, for the
choker and earrings.
The commission. Mm-hmm. Donna says hi, folks from Latrobe. That's our neighbor.
That is our neighbor.
Well, not really. We actually have a neighbor who lives
literally across the street.
So we're all in the neighborhood. Right. What's the thing that Mr. Rogers says about the neighbors? Won't you be my neighbor?
Won't you be my neighbor?
Well, she's in the neighborhood literally. Right. Marianne says we have family day too, but there is mail delivery.
No mail today here.
Teresa says received my amethyst point and check glass beads today. Love them so much. Good. Oh, good.
Yeah, we're starting to finally get all that stuff is working its way through the system here now.
Yeah, she's been working extra days.
Barb is like pulling her hair out. She's like, maybe I should just go home today. It was a rough day for Barb.
Oh no.
Yeah. Wow. There's just a lot to catch up on and a lot to combine.
So
she's working hard for y'all.
I hope y'all like it because she's doing extra shifts to make up. Mm-hmm. Teresa says joining in.
Hello.
Other Teresa.
Other.
Because the other
Teresas.
Andrew's book is arriving tomorrow. Oh, the magazine. Oh, good.
Nice.
I was like, which book?
Which book?
And then I realized
everybody. I just saw one right over here. One person hit a thumbs up. Please hit the thumbs up, everybody. Whether you're on YouTube or Facebook, give us some love over here and hit the share. Don't forget to share with your friends. There are people on our YouTube channel giving us thumbs downs, everybody. So let's thumbs up to counteract that. If you're on our YouTube channel, hit that thumbs up. I know some people don't like us. It's okay.
Great.
They're called trolls, probably.
He's like, let's drop this poop bomb right before you have
fine.
to.
We're on YouTube now. It's the public, you know. It's mostly our shorts. When I do the little shorts, people are just like,
oh,
they're mostly thumbs up. But
I'm not in those, so it's okay.
He's like, it's okay.
So it's okay then. Susan says, got a few things like laundry, exercise, dusting, taco lunch, etc. Also made a pair of earrings for a partially African bead set that I'll post this week, I hope. Oh, good.
Nice. You've been busy.
Yeah.
Busy.
Makes me tired. Amanda says, hi, Donna. Where's Latrobe? Latrobe is approximately 12 minutes to the west of us. It's where Mr. Rogers... West.
You're right, west.
I know my directions.
So my screen's flipped around, so my directions
are that's what it is.
I'm going this way. No, this way.
Well, Latrobe is that way, which I'm pointing this way. Anyways, that's something weird. Are you all directionally oriented people, or are you not? I think, like, especially like when I'm in a new place, sometimes I get like I start building maps in my brain, and once I'm kind of oriented, I always know which way is north, south, east, and west.
That must go with your sinus infections from change in weather.
Maybe my power.
It's all part of your power. I don't have that. My
June's...
power is called Siri.
Don't make it come alive.
Nothing happened.
June says hi, Andrew and William.
Hello. June. Good to see you here.
Cindy says I bought polymer clay this week, and my granddaughter made a few things. I'll post them, and William tries things later.
Ooh, I can't wait to see.
Susan says those tiny furry overlords really are commanding. Our tiny overlord goes to the VET Wednesday for his wellness check. Well, hopefully everything goes well.
Yeah, no surprises.
Lots of love to all of you. I know that for us it's a little bit stressful. I mean, our vet's pretty good and our
vet's very nice
very chill about certain things. So it's not too bad. But we just have been through so much the past couple of years that any little thing kind of brings up stuff.
Yeah,
so
we're like PTSD.
Yeah. Especially the waiting room. So I need to figure out something that I can do to combat.
To slow down the panic.
I know, and I'm not too bad with that. I think I pick up on William more because maybe. Anyways, Donna says yes, he is buried in the cemetery on my road, so I am in the neighborhood. And also, Arnold Palmer is from Latrobe. Diane says, great to have good help. Yeah, we're super lucky. Barb actually grew up in this house.
Yes.
So
we own her parents' house now.
So if you were wondering how weird,
how we meet Barb, we bought this house from
we're
Barb.
like interconnected that way. And Susan says, why are people so mean? Who knows? You know,
they've got it in them and it has to come out sometimes.
I think people sometimes are going through stuff that you don't know about, and sometimes that can manifest in unhealthy or negative ways. And so there is a part of me that wants to fix that, but then when part of my working through trauma, which you probably wouldn't, you're like, oh, trauma, working through trauma. Where you're like, I thought I was here to see the Polymer play. But part of my work with that is realizing and actualizing that it's not my problem.
Right. You can't help trolls giving thumbs downs on the internet.
Or other stuff. I mean, it's one of those things where my initial reaction is want everybody to be happy and to be loved and feel all the good things. And then I realized that's a trauma response. So I'm working through that. It's not my problem. That's what it's like. It's my new, no, that can be your one, but mine is not my business. How about that?
Not my business.
There's a wonderful, no, that's somebody else too. That's somebody else. There's this wonderful person named Pema Chodron, and she wrote about this and talked a lot about this thing called the Shenpa, which
you used to listen to her way back in New York Times.
I know, and I still
you're like, every now once it's making sense.
No, every once in a while I'll listen to it.
Boom, it hits
but
me.
It's this thing where it's like they call it it's like it means the nut, and it's like the thing that's like annoying to you and gets kind of into your brain and you can't let go of it. So part of that is to kind of understand what it is so that you can release it from your thoughts.
And Andrew has a good memory, so he holds on to things sometimes. My memory, it's gone.
Wow.
Give me like 3 days.
Well, y'all. Anyways, Michelle says, did a thumbs up right away and shared. Thanks. I see we've climbed a little bit. I don't really care about it, but William tells me that I should care about it because it makes thumbs up and interaction. I'm like, they gonna watch, they gonna watch. If they don't watch, they don't watch.
8 million viewers say during their videos, give me a thumbs up and please share. It helps the algorithm. They got 8 million followers. I'm going to listen to them.
Okay.
We're going to say, give us the thumbs up and share. It's not just us making this up. It's like people who have like giant subscriber bases are like, yeah, it helps with the algorithm.
Okay. Well, I'm just gonna pay for it now because apparently they just rolled out that you can get verified on Instagram and
Meta verified for $12 a month.
14 because we have iOS, $14.99. So I'm just gonna pay for it, and that's gonna make everything better in my life, right?
It doesn't do that.
We'll see.
Do that.
Amanda says I am severely directionally challenged. Teresa says
skipped.
I can find my way around without a map. It comes naturally from me. That's good. Marianne says most often directionally oriented, but some roads really screw with my brain. Yeah, especially when it says that it's going north and it's definitely not going north. Like there are some roads here in this area that say that you're going west, but you're definitely not facing west. But
even number roads, I think, run west to east, and odd number roads run north to south here in
usually.
Ultimately, we'll say that.
Yeah, but
Ultimately, they go
sometimes
that
there's
way.
a little dippy do,
Yeah.
and then
They
you're
may
like,
turn you around, but ultimately they go one way or the other.
mm-hmm.
That's how they do it here. I don't know if they do that other places or not.
Susan says he's pudgy, looks like a rolling barrel when he walks. Probably get told he needs to diet. Yeah, I would say, and this is unsolicited advice from Andrew,
Uh-oh.
is that if they tell him to lose weight, you should maybe take it to heart, but also be very gentle about how you get your beloved pet to lose weight, because our cats got told that they were overweight and we put them all on diets, and I think that that may have triggered and this was a different vet that told us this, but it may have triggered some of their kidney issues. So just be careful. I know that I'm not a vet. I'm not a doctor, but I have sinking suspicions because when we kind of doubled down on them losing weight, that's when things started going kind of sideways. So,
Sometimes they like to be happy and big.
well, also I think it can sometimes put your system in distress. Like I know that when we were just eating only leaves of lettuce for dinner, that I felt stress in my body. Um, I also felt a little bit thinner, so I was like, maybe this pain in my head is worth it.
That was the no caffeine.
Also, I had caffeine today for the first time in a couple days, and I feel like I've been reborn. I feel alive, awake,
Must
happier,
be nice.
more in touch with the universe. I feel like I may even have some superpowers beyond being directionally oriented.
Must be nice.
I know. I can do all things, and all
If
things are
only.
possible. Amanda says, my dad would give me directions using landmarks like unique buildings, turn left
That's
at the
how I
red
need
barn.
directions.
You know,
And then
it's
I need them written down.
when I first moved here, um, people would give me directions and they would say, oh, well, you're going to need to take a left where the Pick and Chicken used to be, which is not too bad because the Pick and Chicken still has its
A
sign.
big sign.
But there are places that they would say where they'd be like, oh, you need to turn at the old McKinsey farm. And I'd be like, where's the old McKinsey farm? Because I didn't grow up here. So they would tell me things like that. Or where that plane used to be in somebody's front yard. And I was like, when was this happened? And they're like, oh, about 20 years ago. And I was like, well, I was not here. So do you
I've
have
been
any
here for like 1 year.
do you have any other landmarks that I can guide myself?
Now you know a lot of those old landmarks,
Correct.
even though they're not there anymore.
Correct. And now I'm starting to do it.
Do
And
you
like,
know when that farm used to be there?
be careful, the road gets slippy.
Yeah,
Anyway,
you switched to Slippy real quick.
because it's convenient and makes sense.
Slippery.
Marion says, Andrew, while that is true, there are just some mean people too. Yeah, maybe. It's not my problem. So there, oh, see, active, active. Sharon says, our vet comes to the house because our pity is so anxious. That's good.
That's nice.
I think maybe, well, I don't know if our vet plays house calls, but that may be good for Gilbert because he has real hard anxieties. That means also I have to clean the house really good too. So maybe that's another good excuse to have somebody come over. Susan says, that's my reaction too. I want to make everyone happy, which isn't possible. Yeah, it's
It's
sad,
not up to you. That's
but
what it is. It's not up to you.
that's the thing though. When you grew up with trauma, you want to keep everything happy.
Oh, I know.
Michelle says, LOL, when I am playing video games, my husband will tell me to turn left and I always turn right. I am severely directionally challenged. That's like when I'm driving with Cynthia, I have to put the L's up and I'm like, this left, not this left, this left.
They're pricing meals backwards. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, well, you just
This is
have
the
to
right
imagine
L.
that I actually know my left from right. Pat says, love you guys. Thanks. Lots of love back. Mary's watching.
Hello, Mary.
Bonnie's watching. Hi,
Hello, Bonnie.
Bonnie. Donna says use TA.
Used to use.
Used to use Dippy.
Dippy Doo in my hair.
Well, there you go, Dippy Doo. You know what that means then. Anna's watching. Hey, Anna.
Hello, Anna. Good to see you here.
I know. We don't always get to see the people. Marion says avenues are supposedly east to west and streets are north to south here.
In New York, I think avenues went north to south.
Yeah.
And streets went east to west.
Yeah. So there you go. Amanda says Andrew's wired. All things are possible today.
I could just duck out and I'll let you do this. He's like, I got this.
I got this. Move over, Willie.
I'm gonna have to soon.
No, you can. We'll do some weird.
Sit on the other side of the table.
We'll see what happens. All right. There's some talk about this, that, and the other. Y'all can read that.
Y'all can read that.
I hate to do that because I always try to read all the comments, but I want to land this plane, y'all.
He wants to show you the good stuff, is what he wants.
Well, so good. It's good, but also I also wanted to show you how you can do a lot with very little, because I know that sometimes when we show different techniques, like there was one time when I was showing this tutorial and somebody said, gee golly, I would love to do that, but I don't have the money to do that. And I was like so shook. And the reason why is because like I grew up with not a lot of money. And for a long time, actually, I didn't have a ton of resources. And it definitely prevented me from doing certain things. So whenever I do different tutorials now, I try to factor that in so that things are more accessible. And just so that, I mean, we will, in the course of time, as we do more and more tutorials, especially on YouTube, we will, you know, of course, we'll have to get into some of those more specialized equipment and things like that. However, I do want to counterbalance that as much as possible with having projects and methods and processes that don't require a ton of resources. So
speaking of tutorials, I just set up with Jen. Jen's going to start doing more tutorials with us on YouTube. So if you've ever seen any of Jen's tutorials with us on YouTube, I think there's a playlist out there. And I know a lot of people have asked for more of them. We're going to start filming again tomorrow.
Oh, good. Tomorrow? How are you going to do tomorrow?
She only has evenings. So while you're doing your live, we'll be down at the store filming.
Well, that's convenient.
Convenient for what?
That's convenient.
I thought it was, actually.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. I'm thinking of taking a class in Pittsburgh on Tuesday nights. So I'm going to have to talk to the people, the people at Contemporary Craft to see if I can use their studio for a little bit of time.
Do your live?
Yeah. Be like, live from Contemporary Craft.
Done it before.
I know. When I was their artist in residence in their metal studio, there was often times where I was there and I was like, hey, y'all, guess what we're going to do today? We're going to learn all about filing.
That's good.
So
it's good for everybody.
Anyways, let's do this. Wait, Donna says, William, you keep pushing that hair over. It's going to land on top of Andrew's head. Well, it won't stick. That would be something if it did.
Boom.
Andrew's you know, I've seen people where they have these hair stickers basically on Instagram, and it's basically like a toupee, but it's like sticky on there.
Yeah, they do it up the center a lot of times.
And I was like,
some of them look really real.
I know. I was like, should I do that?
Like, can I have hair again?
I think if I try to grow it in, I could probably mostly grow it in. But it would look so like while I was in Tucson, I couldn't shave my head and it drove me crazy. And there, like, we were working the shows all day, so there wasn't like a way to go to the barber. And so it drove me crazy because it was growing in, but it looked like a mangy manchichi. And because it takes a while for it to grow in. I'm also getting of this certain age where I have more gray hair now. And apparently gray hairs are different than other hairs. So they're like, I don't know, they're their own thing. They're
like
wild.
wang out.
Mine are like really thick. They're like double stuffed Oreos, but and not in a delicious way.
They're more coarse.
Yeah, and
They're more
so
wiry.
so I had to deal with that too. So that was fun.
See, I like you just the way you are, just like Mr. Rogers, Bonnie says.
Thanks.
Barnaby does too.
Oh, good. Lena says, no, it's so weird to see you with hair now. I know. I looked at some pictures from a long time ago when I had hair down to my shoulders. And then I was like, who is this? And then I realized it was me. And
I never knew Andrew then.
And then I was like, pitch this in the fire. So, anyways, all right, let's flip this around.
Let's get some stuff going on. Come on, Barn. We gotta get the lights
No,
out.
I don't think we'll use the light today.
You don't want the light today?
No, because you'll see why I'm not in favor of using the light today, because you all will go blind staring at this. So I'm gonna try to do this and we'll see. But it's people like, don't do the hair stickers, but I might do it, y'all. If they're under $20, I might do it. Just for fun.
Just for fun. Why not?
One time I wore a wig, and that's like one of our most viewed videos. And all right, so let me try to flip this. This is kind of a weird thing because the cord is super small, and I don't have a bigger cord, and my phone's about to die.
Oh,
so
see if I have a bigger cord. Did you go into the cord box?
I don't know about anything called the cord box. Okay, so you may notice that there's a huge glare here. And the reason why that there is a huge glare there is that I am working on a tempered glass surface. Now, you don't necessarily have to work on a tempered glass surface. However, I like to use it. I also don't have all of my polymer clay supplies here. A lot of my polymer clay stuff is at the cottage. So this is definitely kind of what I have available. What I have available is what I'm going to use today. So you're going to see William's face in the reflection. So he's here with you now. Be here with me. What is that? Be here now. Ram Dass, that book.
Be here now. I think it's Be Here Now.
Anyway, so I apparently can digress real easy.
Yeah, you do.
I'm like, remember that one book with the purple blue cover?
As long as you bring it back, that's all that matters, right?
The callback. I'm good at the callback. I'm good at that because my memory. Barnaby's like, what the heck is going on? He's looking for White Daddy, and then he saw me, and then he was like,
Come on.
He told it how he felt.
You coming out?
Can you hear him?
Coming out?
He's like, how about we go out?
Yeah, that's what he wants.
He's like, hey, guess what? He's busy. Gold Dad's busy. Let's
He says we can duck out right now.
He says no one will notice. Anyways, y'all getting wild. So
we're getting wild.
William, stop shaming yourself on the camera. Anyways, so I put this down to protect the surface. You don't
don't mess up my desk.
Correct. So polymer clay will eat away plastic. So just so you know, it will eat plastic away. So it's important that if you're going to work with polymer clay, that you get a surface that's a non-stick surface that you can pry things up. Sometimes I work with a subway tile. Actually, most of the time I work with subway tiles because I can lift them up and I actually can put them directly into the oven and bake things in the oven. And I don't have to worry about transferring them. Now, some of the supplies that you're going to need today is, of course, polymer clay. This is really, really old polymer clay. And there is a lot of things to be said about that. Generally speaking, old polymer clay will become super crumbly. And there are, if you look on the internet, there will be people who will tell you to add all kinds of stuff to your polymer clay to make it nice and juicy and to have it be workable. But this thing is that sometimes when you add certain things to the polymer clay, it can make it weaker and it can also cause problems later on. So what the key is to have it being successful is to condition your clay. And what does that mean? It means it's kind of redistributing the emulsifiers and the plasticizers in the clay and getting it worked in. So if you have hot hands, then it will also speed up how you condition your clay, because warm hands will make it so that you can condition the clay a little bit easier. Generally speaking, my hands are like ice cold, and so that's not awesome. If you want to make it easier on your hands and joints, and you're planning on conditioning a ton of polymer clay, you can always get a pasta roller. Those are super handy dandy um, tools for polymer clay. If you do get a pasta roller, make sure you designate it only for polymer clay. This is not something that you're going to want to mix and match, because when you eat that pasta, it's like the forbidden pasta afterwards, because otherwise you're going to be eating basically plastic. And I mean, you could, but I wouldn't recommend it. And I think that it may be detrimental to your health if you poison yourself. But you do you. I know a lot of people, and they have their reasons for doing things. Anyways, they're over here fooling around in the background, playing these like acrobatics.
Hello, everybody. This is my little shoulder rider.
So there you go. So they're like, so I'm like, don't work in an area with a ton of cat hair. And so then they're like, let's distribute all the cat hair we can. Also, when you're working with polymer clay, one of the things that can be tricky is keeping your workspace clean while you're working. So if you want, you can use baby wipes. Baby wipes are wonderful because they can help clean things as you go, whether it's the surface of this glass or your tools.
Do the lens wipes work too?
The what?
Lens wipes?
I don't know because I've never tried it, but it could.
They're alcohol based, I think.
They could.
Because those are pretty easy to find too for people.
I see a couple comments. Lena says, I bought some 12 by 12 tiles from a Habitat from Humanity store for cheap. I work on them, bake on them over a sheet of paper, and take photographs on them. So yeah, you can definitely find them. I've gotten stuff at remnant sales or scrap upcycle stores for cheap. I mean,
Construction Junction here in Pittsburgh.
and creative reuse. And those you can get tiles for like 5 cents. So, and sometimes if you know somebody who's doing a renovation, sometimes they'll have extra, and it can be very inexpensive to get these. This tempered glass actually is from one of William's old desks. He lost the screws to the desk.
Mom, we took the desk apart. My mom was going to put it in her house, and then she stored it in the shed, and we have no idea what happened to all the screws that hold it together.
So
we have all the other pieces.
I've adopted the tempered glass. Yeah. So anyway, so we've got this tempered glass. And then one of the other things that I would recommend getting is a tissue blade. This is clearly not a tissue blade. This is used for ceramics. It's a thin piece of metal. Sometimes they come in wood, and it's basically to scrape the sides when you're throwing pots.
Shape it.
And to kind of smooth down any kind of ridges. But I'm not at the cottage, and that's where that is. So basically, it's just a very thin piece of metal that's used to cut the clay. Now, if you do have a tissue blade is way far superior. Because it's actually used to cut things. If you do use a tissue blade, make sure 100,000% you know which way is the cutting way. Generally speaking, I'll take a little dab of nail polish and I'll put it on the top of a tissue blade. And that is so that I know that's the side that I touch. If it's the other side, don't touch. I've heard tons of horror stories where people have inadvertently pressed into the blade thinking that they were pressing into the top part, and they were actually pressing on the blade and then ended up cutting their fingers. Those blades were designed to cut tissue. That's why they're called tissue blades, because they were
human tissue.
Correct. They are a
not tissue paper.
No,
human tissue.
They are a leftover of the medical. I shouldn't say leftover. They are a product that's used in the medical industry to slice tissue, and that means flesh. And that's so that you can look under a microscope and see you can see like the cross sections
and
of
you
it.
may think you know every time you pick it up what side is right, but it's best just to mark it.
Yeah.
You get busy, you just grab it.
Correct. So that's one little tips and tricks that you can do to prevent yourself from the blood time. Nobody wants the blood time. Now, for today's project, we're going to use a little bit of cornstarch and a very soft, pillowy brush that is very soft. You can use, there are a couple people who will use a baby sock and put their cornstarch in that, and then they kind of close up the top, and then you can use that to powder things like that, like a little
baseball players. Isn't that what they used to do their hands?
I don't have any clue about that.
They have like a little chalk sock.
Okay.
Chalk sock.
That's something different. But anyways, so yeah,
Isn't
you
that
can
what you just said? Chalk in a sock.
Okay. You can use that chalk sock. If you want. I'm going to use a soft bristled brush, and that's what I'm going to use today. Also, I don't want to sacrifice any of my socks because I don't have that many socks that I actually like to wear. So without holes. So maybe I could sacrifice it. It's probably best not, run it through the clothes washer or whatever. But anyways, and also if I showed you this grubby, I was gonna say something else, but if I show you this grubby sock, y'all gonna be like, "Oh, please send help, 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 send help now." So anyways, soft bristle brush and some cornstarch. Now, if you want, I have so much cat hair all over me. So anyways, if you don't want to use cornstarch, you can use other powders as a release. It's basically like flour when you are when you're baking, when you don't want it to stick to your cooking surface, you can use the flour as a resist for your clay so it doesn't stick. But this is cornstarch. And also, there's no negative, at least that I know of, there's no adverse reactions of using this as a resist. Sometimes, if you use certain things as a resist, it can cause problems down the road. This isn't like it will be like water resistant and it will prevent you from doing like paint applications in the future. This is not one of them. So, and it's also something you can eat. I would show you that I'm going to eat that, but I don't want a mouthful of cornstarch. No, so I'm going to skip that and just, you can imagine me dipping it in my finger in that and tasting it, but I'm not going to actually do it. So just picture it, and then it's not like drugs, because that also looks like drugs. I once had a baggie of cornstarch on the counter at the shop because I was working at the shop. And so I was like, "Ooh, we know how y'all like to get down to." And I was like, "Cornstarch, cornstarch, y'all." And they're like, "Oh, we thought that was different." I was like, "Who leaves that out?" Anyways, especially at a retail store. All right. Oh, my friend Sonia is watching. Hey, Sonia.
Hello, Sonia.
And she's using the brown heart because she painted her room brown.
Nice.
I don't know if that's why I used it,
Maybe
but
it's bronzite, brown.
oh, maybe. Um, Lena says, "Do you need a mom sock package?" Probably. William bought these socks, and they are like Chinese foot binding socks, and they are so tight. And
I think they're so nice because they form to your foot and keep it nice and where it's supposed to be. And Andrew's like, it's like binding my foot.
I know. I'm like, this is cutting off my chi. I can't focus. I can't think. I don't know who is who. Who am I? Where am I? I can't think of anything except these tight socks. And so, anyways, Marianne says only eat cooked cornstarch. Well, I'm not going to eat it either way. So there you go. So the key to success in polymer clay is to condition your clay. If you have a pasta machine, use a pasta roller. If you don't, and you're just starting out, you don't necessarily need to do that. So what I do is to condition the clay, which I precondition this, is to cut it into segments like so. And
isn't that satisfying?
It is. It does. Even though this isn't that sharp, it actually cuts the stuff, and it's very satisfying. Now, another thing that's also handy to have when you're working with polymer clay is what's called deli paper. And it's basically parchment paper, and that's really good if you're working on something and you need to set it aside, or you don't want your clay to dry out, because sometimes the clay will dry out. Now, there's a process called leaching, which is you take just regular paper that's porous, and you can set this on there, and the paper will soak up some of that extra liquid, which if you have super mushy clay, that's one way to make it less mushy. But I kind of feel like that's playing with fire sometimes, unless you're more experienced, because sometimes you can make your clay real brittle and then you have to add stuff in to get it. So basically, when you're rolling this out, start from the middle and work it like this so that you get a relatively even kind of log shape. And then what I'm going to do is I want them to be roughly the same size. And then Marianne says, "Have you eaten pudding? Probably cornstarch is one of the ingredients." Girl, we can talk about pudding all day long. I can make pudding in my sleep. And you don't necessarily have to use cornstarch as a thickener. But anyways, this is not
That's one of Andrew's go-tos.
Correct. When I'm sad, I'll make pudding. When I'm happy, I'll make pudding.
Anytime he wants a snack, pudding.
You want pudding? You can ask my friend Jennifer from when we were children. Her comfort food was mashed potatoes, and mine was pudding. I
like mashed potatoes too.
Anyway, so we're going to just lightly stack these coils and then twist. And that is going to work the clay and make sure that all of the emulsifiers are evenly distributed. So you're just working the clay and getting it so that it's nice and soft and it's flexible. Now, there are other ways that you can do it. And it's called wedging. And basically, you want this to be a tight shape. Sometimes you can roll it into a ball, and that will also help. So how I'm rolling that into a ball is I'm holding one hand kind of stationary, and I'm using the other hand to roll it. And that is, I'm rolling this around and I'm getting this shape. And so then to work out any kind of air bubbles, I'm going to take the palm of my hand and press it firmly. And then I'm just going to keep doing that. and pressing out any clay. Now, how do you know that it's fully conditioned? Well, one way is if you have a pasta roller, you can roll it out and you'll see the edge, and the edge will be smooth. That's how you know that it's fully conditioned. If it is super crackledy or crumbly, that means it's not fully conditioned. Now, in theory, it doesn't necessarily have to be fully conditioned to do certain things. However, most of the problems that I see with clay is when things are not fully conditioned. So just keep that in mind when you're working, is if you want to set yourself up for success, make sure that you condition your clay fully, and then that way when you're doing your project, um, you'll have greater results of success. Um, so here you go. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of mashing this down into a shape, and I'm going to have this cube, and I'm going to roll this out into a coil. And if you see any air bubbles in your clay, you can take your tissue blade and cut that and then squeeze out any air. Because air bubbles, if you're making something like a coin or a pendant, can create a weak spot, and then when you go, it can snap in half. So
not your friend.
They're not your friend, and also they can bubble on the back, and that's kind of annoying. So what I've done is I've worked my from the middle, working outwards. I've rolled this out into a coil, and then it's basically an even coil across. If it's not, you can make that way. And then I don't like to measure stuff. I do with a technique called precise eyeballing, which I've been told that that's not a real thing. It's a real thing to me. And what that means is there's some people.
Just depends how precise your eyeball is.
Correct. My eyes are laser focused. No, they're not. But some people, they weigh out their stuff and they go and they measure all the stuff and they're like very precise. Everything is like calculated with the science.
All those bakers out there.
I know some people, they're into it, but me, I'm not. So I kind of just bend this in half, and then I create this shape like this, or I cut it precisely eyeballed, and then I will do it again where I cut it in half, and then I'll cut it in half, and I'll cut this in half, and then I'll cut this in half. And then that's how you kind of make roughly even shapes, so that when you roll these out into little balls, they're all pretty much uniformly the same size. Now, if your hands feel grubby, because sometimes the polymer clay can get onto your hands and it can make your hands feel sticky, that's a good time to wipe your hands off with the baby wipes, and that will prevent you from feeling kind of gross. Now, if you do have one that's slightly larger than the other ball, and you have a ball that's bigger and you have a ball that's smaller, you can always pinch some off and put that onto the smaller one and roll it up, and there you go. Since your clay is fully conditioned, it shouldn't be a problem. Now, if you're using different clays and some of the clay is more conditioned than the other, then you might have a problem. But with this, since we've really worked this clay, I worked this pretty good beforehand, then it shouldn't be a problem at all. All right. So the next thing we're going to do after we roll out all these balls, which is pretty, it's pretty satisfying. I don't know about you, but I kind of like this. And so I'm rolling out my balls of clay, and I'm making sure that I have enough for each of my stamps. Now, I'm going to show you the stamps in a second, but first I'm going to, what am I going to do first? Where's William? Are you here, William, or did you go outside? Anyways, so the things that we're going to show you for available for purchase is, well, we were at one of the shows, we found these Bronzite stamp and they're beads. So these are all hand cut. These are they're all cut by hand. I don't know if you can see it, but it's a reverse intaglio carving. Um, and so we have these, and what we're going to do is I'm going to press these out in real time, and then William's going to keep track of which one's which, and then we're going to zoom in on the impressions because
Oh my goodness.
and this is going to take a while, y'all. Actually, not that long. So I love all things kind of ancient. When I was a little kid, I was so fascinated by stories of archaeology, and I just loved learning about Mesopotamia, the land between the rivers. Mrs. Bennett would be happy to know that I still remember that. Um, I'm not going to tell you which grade that I had her because that might be a security question. But anyways, so we learned about cuneiform, which is a style of writing where they would, it's kind of like, I don't know, these marks. It's like an alphabet basically, but made with a stylus that was made from a reed. And eventually that kind of way of dealing with things evolved into cylinder seals. So what they would do is they would you'd get a cylinder of stone or clay, and you would carve your design and then roll it out into the clay. And that was one way that people could sign official documents in the clay. I also love signet rings. So that's another way that people would sign documents, and also they would use them on the outside of letters as a way to show that a letter was not tampered with or that it was not seen previously. So if you have any snitches in your life, you know who they are, basically the snitch detector. So the signet ring is really important for that. So anyways, now we have like electronics, whatever. But so these ones, we found these were sold to us by an Afghani seller who told us all about these. These are done in some traditional motifs. So there's some ibexes and birds and portraitures and different things like that. And they're all hand carved, which blows my mind that these are meticulously carved by hand. All right. So it's pretty wild when you think about it. So anyways, so these are the pieces that we're selling. We're selling these for $15 a piece. These are all hand carved, one at a time, $15 each. And if you claim it before tomorrow, you can save 10%, like how we've been doing. I had to think about
like
that for a second.
Been doing.
And some of these will have kind of duplicates, but they're all one of a kind. So just keep that in mind. And some of them are a wee bit more rustic than others. So what I'm going to show you is the technique, or one of the techniques of how to use this. All right. So I've got my cornstarch and I've got my soft bristled brush, and I'm going to lightly powder that in there and work that in there like that. All right. And then if there's a great big clump, I can always take this and knock this on the side, and it will knock off any of that extra unhappiness. And then you can take this ball that you've pre-made. If you have a shape like this, which is more oval, you can pre-shape that so that it's more oval shaped if you want it to be more oval shaped. If you want it to be round and you want it to look like a stamp, then you can do it in a bigger ball of clay and just squash it in there. Now, this is one of those techniques that I would recommend placing on. It makes it easier if you work directly onto a subway tile. And the reason why is because then you can just pop it into the oven. I like to tent my pieces. This clay bakes at 275 per quarter-inch thickness. I would probably bake this for 30 minutes just to be on the safe side. I know some people, they like to bake things. Also, make sure that your oven has a chance to reach temperature. I had a friend who never let their oven get to temperature, and when they would bake things, they would be sad in their heart when they snapped in half. So just be careful, be mindful, read the instructions on the package of the clay that you decide to use, and make sure you follow the directions uh, fairly closely. And that, yeah. So, anyways, so these all have holes. These all are drilled with holes. So, if you don't want to use this for this purpose and you just want to use it as a carved bead, feel free. You never have to use these for polymer clay if you don't want to, or whatever clay, metal clay, wax. You don't have to use them for any of that. You can just have it because it's a beautifully crafted, handmade item.
Boy,
So
metal clay would be nice with these, though.
I was going to do that, and then I was going to solder the little pieces onto rings.
Oh my goodness.
But then I didn't do it. So I made the ring shanks. But anyway, so I'm going to roll this out and press this in here like that. And you can go on here like this and press it and then slowly lift up. I don't pull off one side. I kind of gently release it on each side. And then you have, this is what's left. What do y'all think? Y'all like that?
Oh, I like
Probably
that.
super blurry.
Can you all see it?
I'm gonna try.
Maybe I'll
I
take
think
a
that.
photo of it and put it in the. Can we put comments and photo comments in the comments?
Not while it's live.
Oh.
Sorry.
Oh.
So anyways, so this one is going to be this one, our friend right here, and also it's in reverse. So if it's carved like this, it's gonna be reversed when it's pressed out. So just keep that in mind. That's the way it's gonna look. So this one, this stamp, which is this big, this bead right here, is going to be lot
Tucson Bronzite one.
Tucson Bronzite.
TB1.
And that's what it's going to be. And I'm going to try to keep these in, like organized. And then maybe what will happen is that I'll put this in the oven and then you'll have a little stamping for yourself. Now, if you wanted to turn this into a pendant or a bead, then you would take an awl or a sharp pointy thing and stab it and make the hole. You could also insert it if the clay is thick enough. You can put a hole through it and make your own set of beads this way. So this is a way to duplicate this design over and over and over again. All right. So this one is an antelope, and this is lot TB1 for $15. And as William has been showing, if you get it before tomorrow, then it will be how many?
10%.
10% less. All right, the next one I'm gonna do is this one. Do you want to do them all in order? Because I've separated them out, the ones that are like to like, or do you want them kind of mix and match?
Up to you.
William, your vote.
My vote, I would think people are going to get bored if we do 6 of the same pressing.
Okay, we'll do a mix and match then. All right, so this one is up next, and I'm going to roll that clay out so it's nice and smooth. I'm going to dust my mold with this cornstarch, and I'm going to roll this out to be kind of an oval. Flick it a little bit, get that cat hair out, and then press it, and then evenly press it into this. And this is what happens if you use extra clay on the side. And I'm gently prying it up. And there you go. So I don't know if you can see it or not very well, but it's a bird. in flight. So this is going to be lot TB2. It's also $15. And this is how big it is. All right. So lot TB2 is a flying bird. And I know that this is probably like the most bootleg way of showing it, but it's probably the easiest way that I can figure out how to do. Now this one, let's see what this is. Sometimes it's kind of a mystery because you can see the carving, but then sometimes when you press it out, it looks different. So I'm going to roll this out, make sure it's nice and smooth, that it's to the relative shape of this. I'm going to press it in there, make sure that you don't get any air bubbles, and then pull this out like this, and then gently pry this. Now this is going to be lot TB3 also. They're all $15, so there you go. And here is this. So it's another kind of running antelope shape or reindeer or some kind of deer creature. It's not super specific, y'all. And that's lot TB3. And there you go. And you like that? I think I'm getting like I want to keep them all. My greedy heart,
just
y'all.
looking at them is one thing, but pressing them out.
I know. My heart, my covetousness heart. Sorry, y'all. No, I actually picked out my ones beforehand. Don't worry. So this one, I know what this is, but do you know what this is? Probably not.
Since I can't see it.
Correct. I'm going to press that in. And then when I press this in on the other sheet, it's basically so that it has a flat back. You don't necessarily have to press that in there. So this looks maybe not the best. But it's stylized, y'all. Stylized. So that, believe it or not, this is a side portrait of a person. So here is the bouffant. Here are the shoulder and chest area. There's little eyes, there's a little nose, there's a little mouth. And also, this is all one color. So after you bake this, you can treat this with different paints and things so that you can see all those details. So right now, it may just look like a blue blob, but after you bake these, you can do different things to the surface of the clay and it will bring out those details. And one of those techniques you can use is called dry brushing. So you get a little bit of acrylic paint or whatever, and you use a dry brush, as it sounds, stipple it into the design, and then take sometimes a damp cloth, one that doesn't have a super lot of fibers, and then wipe off the excess. And then wherever there are in recessed areas or places where there are kind of deep marks in there, that will hold the paint and you'll see that detail show up. So lot TB4 is a portrait. Again, $15, and you save 10%.
If you order by 5 p.m. tomorrow, Tuesday, February 21st.
What do you want to do for your birthday, William? Your birthday's coming up.
I know. I don't know.
So I don't know what this one is. We'll see. We're going to find out together.
My birthday's on Friday. Get it up. Class day.
There you go. We used to have birthday parties at the store.
I know. I can't throw my own birthday party, though.
I'm not going to do it.
He says, I'm not doing it for you, so... He says, I already got you stuff.
He got a record player, y'all.
I know, I got to show it yet.
A turntable. All right, what is this? I'm going to redo this one. So if you mess up for some reason or you want to do this again, you really have to work this into the clay because you are incorporating a powder into the clay. So if you do that, you don't want to do that a lot because if you do that a lot, it can weaken your clay sometimes. So if you do end up having to do that, just make sure you really work that in there so that you're not working in a bunch of folds in the clay where there's weak spots. Oh, Barnaby. You can hear him in the background. And then I'm going to just dust this. Now, if you wanted a color, you could also incorporate color into your polymer clay by using a Pearlex. One of the reasons why you would want to seal, and we'll talk about sealing polymer clay next, is that if you use Pearlex or something like that, you will want to seal it, and you can do that a variety of different ways. Sculpey, for example, makes some liquid glaze that you can lightly apply. Christy Friesen has a technique or a product called Swelligant. I guess this is a duck. I'm going to go with a duck. So this is lot TB5. And I'm guessing it's a duck or a bird of some sort sitting with folded wings. So yeah, some of them are more detailed than others. But there you go. All right. So what was I saying about sealing? So Christy Friesen has one of my favorites that she uses. It's a matte sealer. One of the reasons why I like that product is because if you use it, with metallic. So if you have a metallic finish to it, it's not going to take away from that. Sometimes when you put a sealer onto a metallic finish, it can make that metallic kind of go away. And then like if you use a metallic gold, sometimes after you put that layer of sealer on, it can make it look like yellow. So this looks like it's like a wolf. And this is going to be lot TB6. And that is this. All right. And I'll show the penny to show the scale. All right. So there you go. Yeah. So William will put a link in the comments about the Christy Friesen Swelligant Matte Sealer. That's one of my favorites that you can do. And so, yeah. And so next we're going to do, that's this one. I don't want to get them all mixed up because then it will be hard to find them. But also, one of the things I really love about some of the kind of ancient symbols is that they have been used for millennia. So if you look at the Ishtar Gate, there are these that are carved into tiles that are then put into, I don't know if you all know what the Ishtar Gate is, but imagine like the Washington Park in New York. It's got that kind of arch there, but covered in bright blue tiles with different creatures in it. So if you want, this is kind of like a dragon, kind of wolfy creature. And I'm going to press this in. And you're going to see actually how quickly this goes because, I mean, we've already done, this is going to be number 7. And this is like that dragon that doesn't have any wings. It's kind of like a dog dragon. Think of Mushu from Mulan. Did he have wings? I can't remember. But that's lot TB, if you want that penny, that magic penny. Lot TB7 for $15. I'm going to try to get closer so you can see that. And so, yeah, so that's that one. And I'm just going to keep going, y'all. There's some fun ones in here, and you never know until you press it. This is another cameo looking one. So don't forget to add the resist to your design because it dramatically affects what sticks into your piece. Now, if you accidentally do it and it gets all gummed up in your bead and the stamp, what you can do is you can take a toothbrush and use a little bit of warm soapy water, and that will help take out any of that residue, and then you can clean it with alcohol, like rubbing alcohol, and that will help take out any kind of residue that's stuck inside of the stamp if you get it. So this is lot TB8. It's a little side portrait. This one's a little bit better than the other one. I like the other one too, but this one's a little bit cleaner. And so that is lot TB8, and there you go. So I'm going to do the next one, and that will be this one. And this one's kind of like that running antelope. Now, if you are kind of claiming as you go, if you see any very ones that if you don't get your first selection, you can also tell us if you want a second selection, because I do have multiples of some of these designs. So I'm just going to press this out and do that. Diane says, I can't imagine carving that tiny image into a stone. Yeah, it's a pretty incredible thing to watch people make these carvings. So this is another kind of antelope or ibex with its head turned towards its tail with its horns going out the back or the front. I don't know. And that's lot TB9. All right. And you're seeing a little bit, sometimes that little brown that's coming off is it's the dust or residue left over from the carving process. Now these are all hand carved, like I mentioned, and that has a cat hair. Let me take that cat hair out.
Surprise, surprise.
I know, it's like they're, I mean, you see the cats is rolling around on us. And this is going to be lot TB10. And this is another one of those deer-shaped kind of antelope ibex that is kind of running or sitting. And they are stylized. Just so you know, they are stylized. So if you're looking for an exact kind of duplication that's anatomically correct on this scale for $15, I'm sad to disabuse you of that potential, but it's going to be extremely hard to find that unless it's a mass manufactured item. Sometimes you'll see intaglio kind of carvings, and they're inexpensive and they're super detailed, and generally speaking it's because they're glass, or they're even plastic, or there's all different kinds of things that they use to make replicas of the stamp. So just keep that in mind. These are excellent prices for what you get. So just keep that in mind as well. And also these beads, like I said, you don't actually have to do this to the beads. If you just want a really cool bead that's hand carved, then these, you don't have to use them as a stamp. I think they're cool if you do. Now this one is another one of those little dragony shapes. Now this one has a little chunk out of it has a little inclusion in the stone, which is going to kind of disrupt that shape. I don't know. Do you want to discount this one?
If you want.
Okay, make this one, this will be $12. Because it's a still neat bead, y'all. All right. So if you get this one and you notice that it's kind of got that little chunk out the middle, that's why it is less. All right. So this is TB11. It's for $12. It looks like it's like that little dragon is kicking a ball or something. So it's just got character, y'all. It's hand done. All right. So up next is this one. And like I said, I don't know what I'm picking up because I started going out of order. I kind of loosely organized these before I started. And yeah, so here we are. All right, so there's this one. This is lot TB12. And then this is the shape, which is maybe a horse. It looks like a horse. So, with really weird backwards legs. But I think that's charming. I don't know about you, but I kind of like it. Like those medieval manuscripts that are kind of like the when they do like dragons, but they've only seen a sheep. So the dragon kind of looks like a sheep.
I love those.
Or like a really like messed up dog. It's like I love those. So this one is going to be lot TB13. And I'm going to press that out. Y'all might be like, oh my gosh, is he going to go through each and every one? Correct.
You can tune out if you wish, everybody, but we hope you stay.
Yeah. You can let us know what you're up to in life. Here's another bird. This one's super cute. So this bird is a flying bird. And this is lot TB13. And it's like it look kind of like a little chickadee. Dippy doo, chicky doo. All right. So TB13, $15. And like William said, if you get that before tomorrow, you're going to save 10%.
Tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern time, y'all.
So this chair is super hard and my butt's falling asleep. But yeah, that's probably TMI.
He starts doing the dance and you know why.
Mm-hmm. It's not the pee-pee dance. Marianne says horse monster. Yeah, I'm sure that there's like the thing is that I wish I knew more. I know the ones like there are certain shapes, they're called Lamassu. And there's gin and there's different different iconography. Now this one is another portrait, and this is TB14. And again, this is kind of, you kind of have to look into, I don't know if you can see it very well. But here is the hairdo up here, and then the eye, and then like a chest. So I don't know if you can see that or not. I can see it, but it's also, I'm holding it in my hand. So, and it is stylized. So just keep that in mind. Because sometimes, people are like, oh, it doesn't look like that. And you're like, well, who does really? I'll do a different one because I saw that's a bird. All right, here's another one of those kind of ibex antelopes. And I'm just going to dust this slightly and then press this in there. I love these. I don't know if you're into these or not, but I could do this all day, and I have. And this is going to be TB15. Now, if, for example, if you ever get where your polymer clay sticks to your surface and it doesn't want to come up, you can always take your tissue blade and slide it underneath and pick it up like that. So just be mindful that you have options and that it's not stuck on forever. Now, also, as I work, some of this corn flour is going, or the cornstarch is going to fall onto the surface, and it's going to act as a natural resist. So this is kind of like in the style of TB1. And that is this one with the horns going this way. So TB15, and it's kind of like a antelope, ibex. I don't know what other creatures look like that with the long horns. So this is going to be TB16. I'm going to do this one and roll this out. Gilbert is currently kissing and hugging on my legs. And I'm going to press this in here like that. And also, it depends on how particular you are with your piece. You can make these where they're each like super precise. I'm going fairly quickly. There's a lot of excess on this. Like if I was going to do this for a pressing, I would probably make the ball of clay a little bit smaller and then press it out. But that if I do that, we can be here all night, which I don't mind. We do have stuff that we have to do, but and so that's TB16. That is kind of like an antelope, but the head is facing in the way front forward facing. All right, so TB17. I'm just gonna grab this one. I don't know what this is. It's always a surprise. It kind of looks like a wolfy dragon. A dire wolf, maybe, if you're into the Game of Thrones. I guess they have dire wolves and other things, but Lennis says might be cool to bake, paint, and fill with resin. Yeah, you could definitely do that. And this is an example of where I didn't dust it super well. Did I dust that one? I don't think I dusted that, maybe. So it didn't get stuck in the mold, thankfully. But I'm going to redo that pressing just because there was a little chunk out the middle. All right, so I'm going to dust this. And press this out. All right. So I love these. I've made my own reverse carvings. It's always an experiment to see it when it's actually pressed, because sometimes it can look great in reverse, but then when you press it out, it looks wonkadoodle. So this one is TB17. This looks like a cat going after something, maybe. Little wolf thing. I think is charming. It's got a big kind of beaky mouth. And it's got little chickeny legs. I can see it. It's got little ears and stuff, but maybe it looks like a beetle to you, I'm not gonna say it's not. Suzanne says these are so special, not like the ordinary. We always try to find things that are a little bit different and unique, And I bought these originally for myself to use. And then I said, I don't need 8 of the same ones. So I'm sharing with you all. And we agonized which ones we were going to pick out. And so this one is another. This could be a bunny rabbit. I mean, it's supposed to be one of those little ibex things, but it kind of looks like a rabbit to me because those horns kind of look like ears. Of course, it has a weird kind of body, so I don't know if you can see that or not. If you go to YouTube, I will say that you can see it way better and clearer than on Facebook. So just keep that in mind. On Facebook, it doesn't look terrible. William is showing me, so I'm looking, and we got new phones maybe last year, and
they changed the cameras.
they
So we're
changed the
doing
cameras.
close-ups. I think the apps haven't got caught up yet to the way the cameras work.
Isn't there a new kind of picture thing?
There's a macro mode, and these apps like StreamYard and Facebook, and they don't know to switch to macro mode or tell the camera to switch to macro mode when you bring something close up. So it's hard because it used to be the lenses are bigger. So when the lenses get bigger, I'm trying to remember how this works, the focal range gets further away. So that's why they implemented a macro mode, but these cameras don't know to switch to it, or these programs don't know to tell the camera to switch to it. It's confusing, but it just means we can't zoom in. But look, that's actually,
That looks not too
that
bad.
looks pretty good. That's on Facebook, and then that's on YouTube.
Okay, so it doesn't look like
closer up on YouTube, I think, but
it doesn't look like junk. So,
and on YouTube, you can switch that to 1080p and have a higher resolution.
So saith the William.
It's streaming at 720 on Facebook.
Because I don't know what that is. I'm gonna pretend though. What are the dragons called in ancient Near Eastern?
Huh?
What are the dragons called
in what?
In ancient Near Eastern art.
Near Eastern?
Ancient Near Eastern. That's like Assyria and Syria and Mesopotamia. Well, I don't think Mesopotamia. That's Middle East. So when I was in college, I wanted to become, after a while, an Egyptologist, and I took a wonderful class with Dr. Trudy Kawami, who specialized in Egyptology and ancient Near Eastern art. And when we went to the Brooklyn Museum, people were like fangirling over her, and she would dress kind of like this Indiana Jones kind of style. And she'd come up through there, and people were like, "Oh, you want to go see behind the scenes?" So we got like a behind the scenes look at stuff at the museum, which was pretty cool.
So in Iran, they were called Azi.
Azi,
or serpents. They just talk about the god Mesopotamia. The god Marduk battled the dragon Tiamat. But that's a named dragon.
Does it talk about Lamassu?
Haven't seen Lamassu yet.
Lamassu were basically like they would have the body of, they would have wings, and then the head of a king with bull horns and like a bull body. So I'm not making this up, y'all. I could, but so these are Ozzy, like Ozzy Osbourne.
AZI.
AZI, he says.
Talking about all the guys who fought the dragons, but not naming what the dragons are called.
Typical. But they're pretty cool. They're like skinny dragons that don't have wings. Do we have any dragonologists up in here?
Dragonologists.
I read the most wonderful series by Marie Brennan about the dragons. Lady Trent Emerson. And I just love them. And I could definitely 100% see her writing about these. Like if you like Amelia Peabody mysteries, then I skipped it. Sorry. So that was lot TB22, and this is lot TB21. Oops, this is out of order. Put the order back in your mind. So she says that you can zoom in on YouTube live if you so desire. So I'm glad that I trimmed my fingernails beforehand, because I like to not have nails that are like that. But anyway, so this is another flying bird, lot TB21, and it's a little flying bird stamp. I think that's charming. It's like a little chicky bird. All right, only a couple more to go. So if you're like, this is the most boring thing in all the creation, fear not, brave travelers. We're nearing the end. So hopefully you all have been doing well out there, and that you've been super creative and making stuff. If not, then there are a lot of resources on YouTube and tons of videos that we've had, and of course, beads
Beads.
to hopefully inspire you in your creations. Suzanne says, not boring, fascinating. Yeah, if you ever get a chance and you're into mythology, read the Epic of Gilgamesh, and it's really lovely. Because when you read that, you can see how other cultures kind of adopted certain archetypal motifs and reuse them. So there's a story about Gilgamesh and his friend is named Inkel. I'm making stuff up, y'all. So, anyways, his friend is dying and he wants to go and bring his friend back to life. So he has to go on this quest for the flower of immortality. And then when he finally gets it, the snake goes and swallows it. And so the snake is kind of tricksy, but is also seen as a symbol of life and rebirth because it will shed its skin and kind of start anew. So there you go. Amanda said, Suzanne says, Gilgamesh and Enkidu. See, I wasn't making stuff up. Did I say that? I don't know.
Bakunawa in the Philippines.
I don't know.
Means bent snake. Causes eclipse, earthquakes, rains, and wind.
Oh, nice. All right. So up next is another birdie, looks like. And these are all bronzite, which is a beautiful kind of chocolatey brown stone. Marianne says, I'm watching on my phone. Diane says, never boring. Your brain remembers interesting stuff. Yeah, especially considering that was like 20 something years ago or more than 20 years ago. So there you go. Here's another flying bird. Oh, I done knocked it with the edge of that. That's all right. So this bird is lot TB24. So there you go. So I love mythology from all over the world. I think it's one of those things that is a really special thing because it kind of answers questions of the universe according to that culture. And you can learn so much about people when you look at their mythologies and you understand a little bit of an insight into what they thought about the world and how the world was formed, and to answer questions about the universe and themselves too. There's a lot of things about psychology and fairy tales and why things were told the way they were. A lot of fairy tales, unfortunately, were about child mortality, um, and explaining this kind of cultural phenomenon where when you're facing famine and poverty and starvation and things like that, it was one way to to ease the burden of a parent or another sibling by saying, oh, they were taken away by fairies, or they didn't follow this rule, and so if you don't follow this rule, then this thing will happen. So I think it's really interesting when you look at a culture and their stories, and you can better understand the world that they come from. Because there are things that, like, if we talked about them now, like if we talked about social media in like the 50s or whatever, it would seem so bizarre, if you looked at even in the 90s and you were talking about like FaceTime or something, people would think you were crazy. But then when you start thinking about the way that we're developing technologically and the reasons why those things came to be, I think is super fascinating. I always like to know why things are the way they are. Um, I don't know if you all have that same kind of curiosity. I know that I do. So this one is another kind of, it could be, if you wanted it could be like a horse with reins, but it's kind of like that kind of antelope running four-legged creature. So there you go. And then I've just got two more left. So if you are like, oh my gosh, land the plane, dude.
I think it's fun. Look at all those you made.
I know. I'm like, I might keep doing this.
Everybody gonna get one with their little order.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Like when you buy a wax seal, give you the demo.
Cat hair included, y'all. So this one is actually really crisp and clean. And it's a bird. It's one of those little flying birds, lot TB27. Look how crisp and clean. Teresa says, love learning about why things are what they are. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Marion says history nerd, which includes mythology. Yeah, me too. When I was younger, I used to not be really into a lot of history. But then when I started looking at it in a different way, it became really inspiring, I think, because then you start thinking about people and why they did what they did and why they still do things the way they do. All right, so this is the last one. This is TB 28. And I think it's really fascinating. And then I'm just going to peel this up, and there you go. Okay, so those are really nice, primitive looking stamps. I agree. There's something really charming about the fact that they are so rendered the way they are. And the cool thing about this is that they're beads. So she asks, how many years does polymer clay last if you don't use it? Some people argue that some of the earliest formulas of polymer clay are the best because they kind of didn't skimp on stuff. And so they'll pull out clay blocks they've had some from the 90s, and they're super smooth and delightful. But some people will say that the new blocks are not very good. Now, if the clay is crumbly, like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, all you have to do is keep working it and it will eventually condition. Now, if it is super, super dried out and you don't have any other option, you can add a drop of liquid polymer clay and work that in. Liquid polymer clay never really dries out until it's cured in an oven. So just be prepared for the stickiness that can be. And if you don't have your baby wipes on hand, go get them. Get them because it will save you from crying your tears, and you won't even be able to wipe your tears away because you'll get stickiness on your face.
Don't do it.
And then you'll cry more. And so prevent the crying game and get those baby wipes out and wipe your hands as you're going. And that will help dramatically. If anybody else has any other questions about polymer clay or about finishing, please feel free to ask. And I will do my best to answer it. One of the people that I really enjoy is Ginger from the Blue Bottle Tree. She is such a knowledgeable, experienced polymer clay artist and looks at things from a scientific kind of point of view. And so she will try different things out and product test and product test and product test. And if she can't figure it out, then I don't know who can really. But she's a wealth of information, and a lot of it is free and available. Used to be on her blog was a big thing. Now on her Instagram, she offers a ton of resources on different things that you can do to help increase your polymer game. I see a couple comments. Anne says, I really like these. Thank you.
Ginger's talking about conditioning right now.
Oh, great.
Latest post on Facebook.
See, I'm not making stuff up. Kathleen says, just got here trying to get caught up. So today I did a quick kind of crash course on polymer clay. And then we also showed some hand-carved bronzite stamps that are inspired by ancient carvings. I wish I could say that these were ancient. They're not. They're replicas, but done
a lot more if they were ancient.
Yeah, they would. Yeah, I couldn't afford them. Melissa says, Amanda asked, do you paint before or after baking? So that is a good question, and a kind of tricky question. So there used to be a product called Genesis, and it was a heat set paint. So some polymer clay artists would use Genesis before they would bake stuff. There are also people who would do multiple curings in the oven. So they would do a bake first of the raw clay, and once that came out of the oven and cooled, they would do their surface decorations and then put that back into the oven. Now, if you're using polymer clay, or if you're using acrylic paint or a different paint, it really just depends. There's a different artist for each kind of technique. There are water soluble oil paints that you can use, and those ones are ones that are best when they're heat set. So you do have to put those in the oven. I would recommend putting these in the oven first so that you don't lose detail when you paint over it. Because sometimes if you paint and your brush is really kind of if you're using a paint that dissolves the clay or smooths it out, it can remove some of the details. So if you want to preserve the details, the kind of blanket statement that I'm going to make, which I reserve to revise and expand upon, is to bake it first, then paint it. And if it's a heat set paint, then you bake it again. Okay. Kathleen says, stamps sound nice. I don't work on polymer clay yet. So this is a very affordable process to get involved in. It's something, I call polymer clay the chameleon, because it can look like a lot of different things, and it can replace working with other bodies, clay bodies. That, everything has its pluses and minuses. One of the things that I love about polymer clay is its accessibility. So you can get a toaster oven at the thrift store and a tile from Lowe's and a roller and a block of clay, and you can be all in for less than $25. Of course, if you buy your toaster brand new and you buy the top of the line Atlas pasta roller and the clay things and this and that, it can add up, but it is something where a block of clay can be very inexpensive, and you can do a lot of things with it. When we were kids, our Aunt Rena, she gave us a block of Sculpey, and it was that white kind of squishy Sculpey. And we made a ton of stuff, little mushroom houses and fairies and little creatures all day long. And it was a very inexpensive gift, but it entertained us for hours and hours. And you can definitely elevate your work. There are some artists who only work with polymer clay. There's an artist named Jeff Denver, and he makes incredible, meticulously made kind of biomorphic shapes and colors, and it's really beautiful. They're inspired by seed pods and abstract art and abstract expressionism, and has a very elegant kind of representation, um, very based off of nature and science. And um, anyways, so you can do a lot with a little bit of resources, and I definitely recommend checking out different books and artists and seeing. One of our friends, Christy Friesen, she's very well known polymer clay artist, and has a lot of different techniques in her books. And so, yeah. Um, Diane says, "Why did you choose blue?" Because I had it. Our friend Andrea, she gave us a box of polymer clay, like a big, large flat rate box. And
One
this
of the
is,
ones that haven't gone to the cottage yet.
yeah, and that's what I had. So this could have been any color, but also I think the blue shows up pretty good on the camera. If I used a super light color, I think it could have shown up, or it could, you might not be able to see it. And also, if I did a super dark color, you wouldn't be able to see it. So that's just one thing that you can do. It's a little bit easier to see on camera. Melissa says, "I love the blue." And plus, these are just demos, y'all. All right. Any other questions? Did you all like that, or did you hate it? If you hated it, you don't have to tell me.
Say it isn't so.
Say it isn't so. You didn't like me. No. But I think that polymer clay is a really wonderful and versatile material. It's something that you can explore and experiment with, and not, there are some techniques that to get in invested in or to get started, it's a huge investment. Like if you talk about doing intarsia stone cutting, your base kind of introduction is like $3,000, because you need all the different polishers and wheels and special glue and different things like that. Maybe it's not, maybe somebody knows a cheaper way, I don't know. But it's a very, when I looked into doing it, I was like, ooh. And I told William about how I wanted to take a class in it. And then he was like, "So how much?" You told me how much the class is, but how much is the materials and the tools that you'll eventually be collecting cost? And then I told him, and then he was like, "Maybe look at something that won't be that much."
You already had a list.
I already had a list. Don't worry
You
about
need
it.
to add to that list yet.
I know. We have 2 more big things that I want to get.
What?
And don't worry
I
about
thought we
it.
just got those 2 big things.
Well, I want a sandblaster, and what's the other one? A sink. So
And a toilet.
yeah, that too. But of things that I need for the art practice, toilet's nice, but it's not.
You just can't practice too long in one space without that.
I know, correct. All right. So
you're gonna pop these in the oven.
So we're going to put this in the oven. I'm going to tent this with aluminum foil, and I'm actually going to bake the paper, believe it or not. So that way we don't have to play mix and match.
Hopefully my fountain pen ink doesn't go.
Well, we're going to put them in order. So if it does expand in the oven, because William used his fountain pen. Oh, I have a present for you from Tucson. But anyways.
I thought I got my presents. I have more.
You have more. There's a present in the
It's
garage
present
too.
day from present week for me.
Yeah, it's birthday week for William. I was like, oh yeah, I did get you something. So anyways, Melissa says polymer makes great lightweight components. Correct. Now, if you're going to do something that is structurally puts a lot of pressure on something like a hinge, I wouldn't probably use polymer clay. There's a lot of things that polymer clay is great for, but there's a lot of things that it's not necessarily great for. So if you have something that has a lot of pressure put onto it, I would use like a metal component, for example. But with polymer clay, there's a lot of pros and cons, like anything. So some of the pros is that it's lightweight, it's waterproof, it's durable, it's relatively affordable and not super expensive. It comes in a lot of different colors. You can make it look almost like anything. And there are actually a ton of resources out there that are available. Some techniques, if you try to get into them, there's like, 3 people working in them, and some of them don't like to share what they are making or how they make it. And so there are no resources. Like when I started with metal clay, especially the base metal clays, there was nobody really at the time working with it because we had preview samples, and it works and functions a little bit differently than silver metal clay. And so there were times when like it would turn into a gloopy mess and would get all over my hands. And I was locked in a room and I had to unlock the door, but I didn't want to make a mess because the walls were white. And there was definitely a lot of sadness and regret. And that's because there weren't resources at that time. So polymer clay is one of those things that's been around for a while now. It's been around for since the 70s. So there's a ton of resources, and there's a lot of communities built around polymer clay. So it's one of those things where if you ever have problems, there is probably somebody out there who knows or who has went through the same thing that you have and can help guide you to find a solution. And so yeah. All right. So there you go. Do you want us to flip this around so you can see my face hole? There's William. And you can kind of see the junk in the back of the office. He cleaned his office, and then that is like.
Well, I had to put my new turntable up.
You move your head, William. So that's a new turntable that he got for his birthday.
And then I had to move all this stuff, and then I got into cleaning and had to start moving this stuff.
Yeah, so there is a pile that needs to exit.
The exit pile.
The exit pile. So bye.
Bye,
everybody. He's like doing interpretive dance in the back. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. We're going to be back tomorrow night with another tutorial. And I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe I'll do another polymer clay. Do you all want to do another polymer clay?
I mean, you got to get back into it.
I mean, 29 people are still watching it, and I've just been blathering on.
Polymer.
Maybe polymer. Maybe we'll do something. I don't know. I was like, maybe we'll do a technique that shows you what to do, like a finishing technique, but I don't know. I'll think about it and we'll see. How about that? And also, if you have any suggestions, you can always let us know about something that you're curious about, because there's a lot of things that we can do, but we don't know if people are actually interested in seeing those things. So then I'm like, oh, they don't want to learn about this. They don't want to learn about that.
No, and some things are hard. Like I was going to say bezel set these, but that would be a long tutorial.
Uh, the other thing is that there are some things that I know about, but I'm not maybe the best person to ask about them because I have ways of doing things and they're maybe not the way that they should be shown. Another thing is that that's kind of a more involved. I think that the bezel setting is one of those things where it's easier to learn when you have somebody when it's in front of you and you can handle it. Like this is one of those techniques, polymer clay is one of those things where I can mush the clay and mess up and it's not going to be expensive if I mess up. And if I mess up, I can just take this clay and smush it back in and do it again. If you mess up with fine silver, it starts to get expensive. And I mean, there's ways of saving the fine silver and stuff, but if you mess up a lot, um, then it's a little bit trickier. So it's easier to have somebody when they can help you, like, one on one or in a group setting or class setting. So maybe I might do I've had a lot of people ask and request that we do classes, do some more specialized classes, and maybe at the cottage or at the news shop, depending on what we do with the news shop. We were thinking of in the very front having kind of like a little gallery space and then having workbenches, like jewelers' benches. And then that way it's kind of like a working gallery, a working studio gallery so that we can have classes there from time to time and also exhibit different jewelry and pieces. So that's one of the ideas that we were tossing around.
Mhm.
So we might do it there. And it's also in Johnstown, which is a little bit of a different crowd than the ones that we're pulling here. But we also have
And
the
a bigger
cottage.
city.
So yeah, and we can also invite one of our friends, Erica. She's a fabulous jeweler and she teaches, so why not? You know? So, anyways, Amanda says maybe you could show us how you would paint the impressions you made tonight. Um, maybe I can do that, maybe. So that's an option. All right. Thank you so much for hanging out. I'm not going to jump in front of the camera since I'm behind the camera
Conveniently.
conveniently. And so thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. We hope you appreciate it. And as always, if you need anything, definitely check out our website. That's www.allegorygallery.com. It helps us tremendously when we get support, not just from, we're happy to give away information. We really feel about the democratization of information and having it as accessible as possible, so that we're not gatekeeping any information. Um, but in order to make these available to all of you, it's important that we are able to pay our bills. And one of the ways that we do that is from the proceeds from sales in our online store and physical location. So if you like this information and you want us to do more, then if you are able to, definitely make a purchase, whether it's one of these cool little bronzite hand cut stamps, beads, or something else. Definitely take advantage of that. And it will allow us to continue to do what we do. We also have a Patreon, which I haven't mentioned. We're in the process of changing our Patreon. Um, and what that means is currently the Patreon is set up for Star Cottage Studio. And what we're working on behind the scenes, which is kind of a big kind of, I don't want to say headache inducing, but it is a thing to wrap our brains around it, is we're planning to convert our business over to an LLC as we start growing our little empire. And as we transition over to an LLC from a sole proprietor, we are acknowledged that there's a lot of different places that you can experience what we have to offer, whether that's Star Cottage Studio or Allegory Gallery, or the new shop. So there's a lot of different places that you can kind of experience what we have to offer. And so we're considering taking our Patreon and kind of doing an umbrella one. So if you like what you see at Allegory Gallery and you may, you know, you can still contribute to it. Currently, it's set up for Star Cottage Studio because we had this idea that we were going to be like a DIY channel or HGTV where we were going to take people around and be like, hello, my name is Andrew Thornton. I'm the Joanna Gaines of the bead world. Here we are. We're going to do this thing to the thing, and we're going to do this thing to the thing. But then one of the things we realized is that even though we try to do one small thing at the cottage every day, some of that stuff is like super boring. It's like, oh, we filled up the pellet stove or we cleaned out this thing. It's not as exciting as when we redid the floors, or as exciting as when we put the split system in, or as exciting as, painting stuff. So there's not always a ton of content that we add there. And so yeah. So we're thinking of ways that we can still keep adding content to our Patreon so that people don't abandon us. And there you go. All right. Bye. See ya.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks.